Well, the issue of prison reform is starting to bubble up on the campaign trail as well on both sides of the aisle. And as an interesting point of reference, it is one issue where the Obama administration and the very conservative Koch brothers find themselves not only in agreement, but working together. You got President Obama, Van Jones, and Charles Koch all agreeing on some issue. I mean, the same issue. It's like your head is going to explode, but it's happening. So our next question comes from Jake Blumenkrantz, and he's a young student at Baylor University. We have a few Baylor visitors here tonight. Welcome, Jake. And your question.
Thank you. My question is about prison reform. Currently, there are several bills in the House and Senate co-signed by Democrats and Republicans alike, all trying to fix the issue of mass incarceration. What would you do with a united front as president to solve this issue?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question. It can be an important issue, but I think it's largely misunderstood. First of all, federal crimes, for the most part, the vast majority of people are not in jail for some small thing. In fact, the growth in incarceration in this country has largely been through mandatory minimum sentences for violent offenders. Up until much of the 1980s, we had huge crime rates in America. And then minimum mandatories began to kick in around the 90s. And suddenly, you saw that people that were once quickly released returned back to the streets and were committing crimes. Much of the crime in America was being committed by recidivists, people that were going back to crime. Now these people were being locked up, and suddenly you saw a dramatic plunge in crime rates. So that's where the bulk and the majority of people being incarcerated are. And I'm not going to undo that. I believe in minimum mandatory sentences for people that are violent and dangerous criminals, for drug dealers and people like that. Now, I am open to saying let's divert people out of the system if they're first-time offenders and they're not a danger to society. I believe that is especially important for juveniles and young people who have made a bad mistake or did something dumb, and you don't want them interacting with the criminal justice system because that stigma oftentimes leads to criminalization later on. The vast majority of people that commit drug offenses as users are victims. They're addicted to or dependent on a substance. I don't want to see them in jail either. I'm open to that. But when it comes to violent and dangerous criminals and drug dealers, I support minimum mandatory sentences because it has worked in reducing the crime rate in America over the last 25 years.